Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear listeners, welcome to the show, to the Modern Family, and from me, Wa'il al-Harasi, and my colleague here, Hatim al-Abd salam. We would like to welcome you again to this show and a brand new topic. Today, we would like to discuss a very important topic. As usual, we pick the best topics that we think we need urgently for our youth and for parents alike. And we have lined up some of the best speakers in their fields. Today, our topic would be on entrepreneurship, how to raise children to be independent, to live their lives away from employment as an idea, as a goal, and how to set better goals for our youth and our children. For that, we would like to welcome our distinguished guest, Sharifa Al-Baramiya. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd first, of course, like to thank you for this invitation to be here today and speak about entrepreneurship and speak about raising productive kids rather than consumer kids. And I would like to also just say Ramadan Mubarak to everybody who's listening right now.
Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Is it a problem, Hatim, that you see we should tackle, or is it something just nice to have?
Yes, it is. I think from the beginning, if we start that our ancestors, most of them were merchants, and they were into business. And then suddenly, with modernity, things have changed, and people started relying on jobs instead of seeking their daily bread in other means, which is a wide open door for everybody to try and get successful in this field. So I think it's very, very important to have a crucial balance in the society, in the community, between people who are having full-time jobs and the entrepreneurs as well. And I'm sure Madam Sharifa here, she's going to elaborate more onto this. We don't want to start the details before giving her the opportunity to say anything.
Just one point. It's weird how modernity works, because in Oman here, it works against entrepreneurship. The people's attitude towards modernity is that they wanted to opt for jobs. However, in other societies, people tend to utilize modernity in a different way. They seek opportunities, especially through the internet boom.
Yes,
and the .com boom. People left their jobs to a more adventurous type of work.
Careers, yes.
And careers. Working from home and starting businesses from home.
Yes.
As a country, Sharifa, we are moving towards encouraging our youth to be entrepreneurs, to be businessmen, to be leaders, not to be dependent on salaries or be civil servants. We would like to minimize the number of people who work as civil servants and be more independent. Today's show is a parenting show. We're not trying to tackle the economic issue. No, but we might do that by giving parenting tips.
Yes.
Is it too early to start with a little child?
I don't think so. I think, it's very important to perhaps go back 2 steps to what you rightfully addressed in the beginning, modernity. I mean, when we say what is modern or what is civilized, I think in our region, having oil as a main revenue generator or main income for the nation has caused this shift in the Omani society from being productive workers to wanting to be civil servants.
Yeah.
Because suddenly that's where opportunity was. So what we need to do is we just need to go back to tapping into the origins and the roots. I mean, Omanis really were seafarers, and they really were the main kind of, traders in this part of the world, and maybe even globally.
Yeah.
So what we need, it's never too late, and it's never too early. I think with children, it's very important that it's almost like teaching leadership. You know, parents, you've got to do it by showing it. You cannot tell them to think like an entrepreneur when all you care for is, at the end of the day, your salary from only one job, and you know you're not thinking as an entrepreneur. If you lead a consumer life, you will have children who are also consumers. They will never think about being producers, because as parents, if you're not showing them ways of production, they will not be able to comprehend it. So I think, leading by example is very important.
I think, Dr. Weil, yesterday we discussed, we've touched on this point. We said that parents raise their children that you should go to school so that you get into college.
Yeah.
And you should get into college so that you get a good job.
Yes.
And you get a good job so that you can buy a house. You get a good house so that you can,
Yes,
and
yes.
it goes on, but we're not teaching them some of the values that are very, very important,
Yes.
like depending on yourself and standing for what you think is right. And being an entrepreneur is something that is one of the skills of leadership, because you lead yourself and you might lead others as well. And it makes you face challenges.
Yes.
But maybe we should talk in the beginning what led us to move away from this field in the first place.
See, I think Oman, just to answer that question, Oman in the 1970s was redefining itself. Yeah? And I've heard a story that His Majesty employed an Iraqi doctor to scout for any educated Omani in Oman and outside Oman, recruit them, bring the talents, and assign them where to work in the very early 70s.
Right.
People heard about this person and they traveled. Omanis traveled all the way back to Oman for the first time in their lives, who were born abroad, when they heard about the Renaissance and that His Majesty is looking for skilled Omanis, knowledgeable Omanis.
Yes.
And the recruitment started.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a positive step to recruit and have people work as employees. The country was not ready
Yes.
for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We have become saturated now. Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I've had this debate a couple of times before, and even kind of thinking about the philosophical issues and really the philosophical question of the origins and the entrepreneurial spirit, and really the way I see it, His Majesty was very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
When he built this nation in 1970, or during the Renaissance, the way he did it was very entrepreneurial. If you look at it, the team he chose and the way they actually took action on the ground was very entrepreneurial. So, entrepreneurship doesn't have to always be about business. Entrepreneurship is a way of thinking. Entrepreneurship really is it's a lifestyle. It's a way of living. You could have a job and have an entrepreneurial approach to solving problems, to suggesting them, to executing them, to managing even your money and your funds. It doesn't have to always mean that you have to start a business. And I think this comes at the core of raising entrepreneurial children. That, even if they're going to go and have a job or be a doctor, but they can still have an entrepreneurial mindset. And I think this is what the whole world is beginning to kind of comprehend, that it doesn't just mean that you have to have people who start businesses. Entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial mindset is very important in the building process of any kind of project. So, if I look back at His Majesty, Allah yahfadhu, when he started in 1970, the Renaissance, it was really very much built on entrepreneurial grounds, because, it was thinking out of the box, beginning from zero, really starting up. Everything was started up, from education, from healthcare, from infrastructure. So again, I think it's very important for us as Omanis not to not to reinvent the wheel, because we have on the ground we have examples of very entrepreneurial methods and processes that took place, led by men who are still among us.
Okay. I think there's two things that maybe the audience or the listeners or the people in Oman were confused with. Some of them is the rightly definition of an Entrepreneur. Yeah, because most of the people, when you mention this word, they think that I should leave my job and be a businessman. But I think finding the right definition and seeing the ways, as you have stated it very well, that His Majesty, he had that thought of an entrepreneur, but people might not think that way. They don't understand.
And I think this is what causes us sometimes to kind of, stop at our tracks and try to kind of, manifest something that wasn't there. And I think it's very important for us to realize that, again, maybe redefine entrepreneurship.
Yes.
It is not necessarily starting a business. It is a way of thinking. Right now, there's a whole, study which is intra-entrepreneurship, which is, intrapreneurship, which is entrepreneurship within the corporations, within the ministries, entrepreneurial thinking in management. It's a way of even managing.
So let's say for parents, I'm trying to bring the whole topic back home. So as a parent, as a father of 5, I would like to raise my children to be entrepreneurs. And now you're telling me I don't have to tell them to be independent and have their own businesses to qualify to be entrepreneurs.
See, there are two things you just said in that one sentence. There are two things you said: be independent and have your own business. Those are two separate things.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we separate these two. It's very important that they be independent, absolutely, because we want leaders. Now, if these leaders are going to be doctors, so be it. If they're going to be ministers, so be it. Civil servants, so be it, but they need to be leaders. If they're going to start businesses, they're equipped to start businesses as well, because they're already leaders. So I think it's important that we don't mix the two. As raising the children, yes, they need to be very independent. They need to realize that it's okay to fail. I think one of the misconceptions that we have also, and we have, maybe a lot of us have been raised this way, that, if you fail or you make a mistake, it's never forgiven, or you shouldn't make mistakes.
And then you should forget about what you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
And move on to something else.
Yes, and I think this is one of the things. I think one of the stepping stones is, number one, and I go back to, it is really leadership skills to start with. And then you give them the financial and the, planning skills. But with leadership skills, you're talking about confidence, you're talking about problem solving. And again, as young as 5, my son is 5 years old, for example. Yeah. With Ahmed, I make sure that I never choose his clothes for him. It's one thing that I give him choices. 1, 2, 3. Choose which one do you want. That's a way of saying, you are allowed to choose, and you have to make a responsibility of a choice. You have to make that choice. If there was a problem that he couldn't understand, again, never try not to give your kids ready solutions. Let them think about it. Sometimes actually they surprise you. They give you solutions that you never thought were possible.
Yeah.
And Saraha, they think out of the box, because we have become conditioned in certain ways.
And they have very wild imagination.
Yes.
And they're not restricted to the constraints that we are aware of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you ask them about their choices?
Why they made the choice? Yeah. I think, it's important. It's important to understand the process that they go through to make those choices. I think there are certain steps that start with leadership. But when we talk about, if it's going to be because I want them to understand or become more productive, I think money issues are very important with children.
You also mentioned the Hatim.
I think we have a call.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a call. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm good.
How are you, doctor?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you very much. You're becoming very regular here, and we might even invite you to the show.
Oh, sir. Sir, that would be wonderful one of these days.
Okay, could you please reduce the volume of the radio so we could...
already,
okay,
sir.
Brilliant. Okay, tell us, what do you have for us today?
Sir, 2 things.
Okay.
2 things. One aspect of me which probably I never discussed. Yes, I'm a management professional qualified from US, so I think I have a moral right to talk on this issue.
Okay.
So, we're talking about entrepreneurship, and we're talking about EA. And our esteemed lady speaker was mentioning about regarding choices and regarding being leaders.
Yes.
To be entrepreneurially successful, you've got to emerge as a leader there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sir, I beg to differ, because for the simple reason,
Yes.
because being entrepreneurial means being able or capable of exercising a unique choice or versatility in doing something different from your normal run-down-the-mill arena of efforts and coming out successful.
Yes. Okay. Point taken.
Now, as we are talking of His Majesty and his versatility of vision and execution of so many different directional efforts in raising Oman from a very small nation to a nation attracting worldwide attention.
Thank you,
in just
Doctor.
4 decades.
We have very limited time. What's your next point? That point is taken. Thank you. What's your next point?
Now, the next important issue is being entrepreneurial is not being successful.
Is not being successful.
Yes.
How so?
It should not always be successful or being a leader.
Okay.
The ability to do something different from your plate is entrepreneurial.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your valuable
Yes. Thank
comments.
Thank you, Doctor. Agreed, and I think we agree more than you realize. You've just stated exactly what we were saying. To be a leader really is to be entrepreneurial, and leaders don't always win. In fact, it's failures that create leaders. So I think we actually do agree on the final gist.
Yes. One thing I wanted to mention is that when we give our children choices, we don't always have to expect an answer. Because one of the features of entrepreneurs is that they use gut feelings, which sometimes they cannot explain. And maybe a child would use his gut feeling in making up a choice. So if you ask him why, you might just put so much pressure on the child that he cannot actually justify it.
Yes.
Yeah. But deep down he knows he made the right choice.
I think it's very important, and I would just like to say that that is very important when the choice doesn't have to be a calculated choice. I think when it becomes a calculated choice, it is very important that the child give the right answer or attempt to give the right answer, especially if it's something to do with money, buying something, saving. When it comes to something that could be measured, I think maybe it's important to kind of guide them in that direction. But absolutely, I agree with you that sometimes it is important to let them just make a choice and not really know why until they find out whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision.
I think there's a diplomatic way to question a child and find out what they feel. For example, if out of the choice of 3 and he chose red, for example, if you say to him that I would have chosen green, but I'm very impressed that you've chosen red. Tell me why you have chosen red. I like the color red, that the choice that you have chosen. And then he will start feeling good about himself that he has done better than you. And that way you can have a conversation and find out what is he thinking about.
But the thing is, with gut feeling, even as an adult, you just can't explain it, because you have a sense, some sort of attraction toward that particular choice, and you can't explain it, but you feel so much strongly about it. Yeah. And you'd still fall into the same trap. And the answer that the child would give you is best.
Just because.
Best.
I always say it goes down to the just because.
Yeah.
And just because is a good enough answer from a child. Because
But don't you agree, Dr. Weil, that once the child grows up, they will have to make certain decisions. And if they have to sell this idea to people, they should be able to express themselves. So I don't mean there is right and wrong, we're just discussing.
It's not about right and wrong. It's about keeping the arena open for the child to sometimes explain himself, sometimes allow him to use his gut feeling. And as a parent, you need to be smart of what sort of decisions need to be explained?
I think age group is very important. I agree with both of you, and I think what you're pointing out is we're talking about the different age groups. I think, maybe from 7 upwards or 8 onwards, you would expect them to give an explanation of their choices. Younger than that, just because would suffice. So I think, again, it would depend on how old the child is.
Yeah. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we would like to focus on leadership a little bit, but more so on how to manage finances.
Yes.
It's a mixture of, this topic is so huge.
It is.
And we can't cover. We have dedicated a whole episode about leadership and creating little leaders.
Yes.
Last week. So maybe what we could tackle today is just emphasize a little bit on leadership, and then we'll talk about money management and how the concept of money. And to start with, I think a concept needs to be corrected with parents first, is when we teach our children why to go to school, is never to tell them to have a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
To be independent. Because I could go to college, I could go to university and have a master's degree, an MBA, and then decide I don't want to work for anyone.
Yes.
I would like to start actually my own thing.
That's what happened to me. I actually went to school and to university, and I graduated in biomedical science, and I worked at the ministry at the Royal Hospital for 7 years, and after 7 years I realized it's not for me, and I started my own business. So again, I think it's very important to keep that options very wide in front of kids.
And most probably the people around you thought that you were insane for quitting your job.
I never told my parents in the beginning, actually, because, alhamdulillah, I was married by then, so my husband knew, but I kept it quiet for a while, because to them, and again, this is parenting, to my parents, it's drastic, because all they did throughout my education, the efforts, the grades I got. بعدين رحت بعثة, I got a scholarship. I went and studied in the UK. I came back, and all of this
went in vain.
Went in vain. To them it went in vain. But actually, to be honest with you, looking back at it, and this is what I always say when I do lectures at schools, at universities and colleges, studying research methods in biomedical sciences and learning the problem-solving pathway is one of the crucial and key traits or talents or skills that I have been able to rely on in starting my business. Really, without that, I don't think I would have the capability and the knowledge that I have now. So again, it's what is the reason for knowledge? Why do we learn? I think that's the important thing to instill in the children. You don't learn to get a job. You learn to know. المعرفة.
Just knowledge.
That is the norm. Even in school, I remember when we were in school, some of the teachers will instruct us, will say, you don't have to go through the book completely. Just read so-and-so chapters. These are the ones
pass the exam.
Will make you to pass the exam.
Those are our favorite teachers.
So it started at a very early stage.
So it's not only parents, it's
not
also
only
teachers.
Parents.
Yes. You mentioned 2 points there. One is the key message of why do we learn? Yeah, and it's not to secure a job. Secondly, you mentioned a point. I forgot. No, it's a very.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. No, when we mentioned about having being independent, and choosing a career path outside your education and the investment. People need to know that to allow people to be independent is for the better good for the country, the whole country, and not the individual only. Yeah. So if we start about talking about money, which is very important, nowadays we are more consumers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more consumers than investors.
Or even producers.
How could we start with a child?
Okay, I think this is a quite a complicated, or it's quite dense. It's a very dense topic. But I think one of the main things, it's not just the children. One of the things that we need to break in as a notion in our society is how to manage debt. I remember one of the first things I wanted to get a job for is to go and get a loan to get a car.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that at the end of the day, you're not working for yourself. You're not working for a living. You're working for a bank that takes your money at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And you can't quit your job, because that's the dilemma I had to face when I wanted to resign, is that I had a loan. And I can't resign. I'm not free to make that decision, because actually the bank owns me.
Modern life slavery.
Slavery, it is. So I think it's very important, number one, in the household, to talk about these issues, to talk about debt, to talk about that, debt is not a norm. It is not normal to just go and get a loan. And I think it's important for children to realize that, because that's the first stepping stone. When they want to buy something, it shouldn't just be given to them. They have to earn it. They have to earn it. I think it's very important to make sure that no matter how young the child is, they have to understand that concept of money and the value of money. It doesn't grow on trees, and people have to work hard to get it. I think having this kind of lending and debt mindset has caused us really to become much more consumers. A lot of people live beyond their means because they can just go and get a loan.
Yeah.
And that has caused a fake kind of way of, lifestyle.
We need to embed or engrave into our children the concept of the want and the need.
Yes.
We can't distinguish, nowadays, between what we really want
True.
and what we need.
Absolutely.
What we need is important, is essential for our life being. But what we want is, we can live without it. And most of the people are in debt because of what they want, not because what they need.
It's true.
So, and this is the norm now. You just, if you make a quick survey and ask how many of the people living in Oman are in debt, and how many of them who have completed their debt and taken another one.
Yeah.
And it just goes on, and it's like an addiction.
Yeah. But again, to be honest with you, and we will go back to the topic, but we don't want to get too far away. But I think, and again, this is something, we were looking at the other day and just kind of discussing it with a small group. Everywhere you go, there are adverts about loans and about, really, we are bombarded as a community. Media, a lot of banks, unfortunately. It's their right, but I think I once read a tweet about it that, we want consumer protection from banks bombarding us with all these kind of,
But you know what? Being abroad, I've seen much more inviting sort of
approach.
No. Even the adverts,
to take loans.
They're more attractive. I don't think the ones that we have here are attractive enough. And
it's not about attraction, but I think it's
naivety of people.
Exactly.
And it's naivety.
Yeah.
I don't think the adverts we have reached a level to really have an influence on us. It's just that naivety. We'll break. We'll have a very quick break, and we'll come and have the next half an hour talking about money and money management. Dear listeners, we'll take a very quick break, and we would like to remind you that you could call us on our number 24602058. That's 24602058. Stay tuned. We'll see you after the break.
The Modern Family.
I wish every child could grow up with unconditional love. Because what unconditional love implies is that you really are accepting your child for who they are. Not every child could be great in sports, or not every child could be a great student. And some children are even going to disappoint us. What unconditional love means is that this is my child and I will accept them. It doesn't mean I'm going to let them get away with things. Now, given that, we are all human as parents. That doesn't mean at times we won't be disappointed. It doesn't mean we won't be angry. But hopefully those emotions, those negative emotions, are much less, and they don't interfere with the relationship. Anyone who has grown up under conditional love, with feelings that my parents only love me if I get good grades, my parents only love me if I'm a social butterfly, they know that there is so much anxiety because they know they must be performing in order to win the parents' love. A person who grows up under unconditional love truly feels my parents are there for me regardless of what I do or who I am or what skills I have. They are there to teach me, and they are there accepting me.
The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, welcome back to the Modern Family. And today's show is about entrepreneurship, how to raise children who can be more independent, how to raise children who are more aware about leadership skills, and about being aware of money, how to manage money and be in charge of their own lives. And be creative. It's entrepreneurship is about being creative as well. You could be an employee somewhere, but adding value through innovation.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Through innovation, you add value to the workplace. We talked about leadership and we started talking about money. What are the first few things to instill in our children about money?
See, I think there are 3 layers or 3 phases to teach children how to manage money better. To start with the saving mentality. After that, you build on it how to handle money, the transfer of money between different entities. And finally, you go into how do you create money? How do you actually become a producer? So if we go back to number 1, which is savings, how are they going to learn to save money? One of the things that we could, guide our children is that if they decide they want a certain toy, and of course it always happens, if you just take them down to Grand Mall or take them anywhere, and it's immediately they want to buy it. They want you to buy it for them. So one way is saying, you can buy it for yourself. Just make sure that you save enough money. This is how much it costs, and take them through the process. Give them. You see, I think it's giving time. I think we don't allow ourselves enough time with our children to do these processes. Go all the way to the shop, pick it up, let them see how much it costs exactly. Let them write it down somewhere, remember how much it is, and just remind them that this is their mission. Now, their project for the next however long it takes is to save that 3 riyals or 2 riyals or however much it is. And when they make it, you will take them back and they will buy it with their own money. So that's when they start understanding that just because you have money doesn't mean you have to spend it. Sometimes it's good to save. So this is one of the ways to kind of instill that saving mentality in children. Another thing is, if we go back to the transfer of money, managing money, I think it's important to allow children to handle money, no matter how young they are. I mean, of course, not a 2-year-old. You wouldn't know what to do with it. But I think, like from 3.5 to 4-year-olds, they kind of start to communicate with others. As soon as a child can communicate with their environment, simple things like when you take them to the supermarket or anywhere else, make sure that at the cashier, give them the money to give to the cashier. That helps them also to develop communication skills with the adults. They understand that, there is transfer of money. We bought these things and I actually was part of the process. So again, this is a way of letting them manage and understand that things don't come for free. You don't just go to a lot of children, probably grow up to a kind of an older age and don't realize that, they think you just go to the supermarket and get things and go out. Yeah. They don't understand that there is actually a transfer of money.
Yes, and sometimes you just give them sweets, while you're still shopping, and they want to open it immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and they are old enough to actually understand that there is a process of actually paying.
Yes.
So you need to tell them that it's a process, step 1, 2, and 3, and then you can open it.
Yes,
I think
very simple things.
We were exposed when we were younger. We were exposed to money more than children are exposed now, in my point of view, because we used to get the allowance for school. Now, most of the schools or the private schools, you have the lunchbox, which is subsidy to the allowance. So kids are not given the allowance. The only time our children see money is in Eid. They don't get to communicate with money, as you said, throughout even a simple thing that when you go to an ATM machine, just give the card to your son and let them do the operation, and then it will make them feel better, and ask them to count the money, the sequence of the currencies and all these things. These are direct exposure to money, and it will teach them about the value of the money.
But I see two positive things that have led into this. Yeah, maybe there are other things, but 2 positive things that have led to this. One, there is lack of healthy food at schools. So parents are more eager to feed their children healthier food and give them lunch boxes. Secondly, parents have started being more money conscious.
Yes.
Yeah. So if they give them money to buy from school, it will cost them more than actually buying in bulk at home and then give their children lunch boxes. So these are both positive steps.
Yeah, I think, but just adding to that point, I think even if they only see money at the Eid, sometimes even if you're going to take your children out with you, before going out, assign a budget. Tell them that, today we're going to go out. My budget, because I'm an adult and I have to take care of all of you, is, for example, 5-10 riyals, whatever it is. Your budget out of that is going to be 1 riyal. What are you going to do with that 1 riyal? And so then, even if he or she sees a toy or sees something that they want, they have to understand that's beyond their budget. So that's when they realize that, okay, we have to wait for another outing, and I save that 1 riyal and the other riyal and the other one until I can go and get what I want. And they start comprehending.
I did
you try that?
No, I do that with my children.
Good.
I do that with my children. And when they were really young, even, they would come and ask, Aboy, هذا غالي? Is this expensive? Is this expensive? I say, no, not really. I would be very unsure.
It depends.
You know what, Dad? I don't want it because it might be expensive.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So you teach them that it's not only what you need. You have to show some sort of self-control and consider other aspects.
Absolutely.
It is very important for a parent to share experiences with their children, especially in business.
Yes.
If a father or a mother is doing business, any type of business, involve your children from a very early stage.
Yes.
And here I would like to share a story that my father started a very small business at home, selling Omani caps. Not only selling, but I remember when I was very little, my father would come back from work. At about 4 o'clock, he leaves work. 5 o'clock, he's back at home. And then he would go out after Maghrib or after Isha and to the tailors to choose the design. So we sit around with them and we actually choose, no, this is good, this is not. I like this design, this will sell more, this is, no, it's not attractive. So we are immediately into that process of, we've done a mini market survey. We know what people do like and what people don't like.
That's market demand. You're assessing market demand.
And then the next step, we would sit back at home and we have a big store of all the threads and all the colors. And we would choose which color goes with which cap, okay, if it fits or not. Shall we use one single color for this cap or 2 colors? And we go to the second step and then send it abroad to be sewed. When it's brought back, I was about 8 years old and my father would take us to Matrah. And we were supplying the whole of Matrah market, and it was me and my brother. I was about 8 years old, and each one is holding a bag of about 200 caps each. Initially, we would see my father negotiate, and then it reached a stage where he says, okay, we're going into this Matrah Souq now. I'm going to collect the money
at the end.
From people we sold to, let's say several months ago. You go and sell. This is the price. Negotiate.
Very good.
Okay? And we would go negotiate, we'd agree on a price, and then we just wait for him to close the deal.
Fantastic. No, fantastic. It's a great example of actually, it's like a mini MBA, really, because it really encompasses everything from market research, from assessing demand, from, quality assurance in your product, waiting, pricing, negotiating, selling, marketing, the whole thing.
We have a call. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. Who's with us?
It's Muhammad Al-Mughiri.
Oh, Dr. Muhammad Al-Mughiri. How are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Mubarak.
وأنت كذلك. كل عام طيبين.
وأنت طيب. We are so glad to have you in the show and call us. It's such you're just giving this show a very big boost We already have a very big dose of having
Absolutely.
Sharifa here and having
Thank
you
you.
both in the show. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I think I'm also pleased to be with you on this program, and it's a very interesting topic. Actually, something that is at the heart of my interest.
MashaAllah.
So I just want to add a couple of points. Maybe you can discuss it later on. About one is about the regulations, and another one is about the drivers and enablers of the whole thing.
Okay.
So let's start with the driver and enabler. Maybe that's more informative. When we are talking about entrepreneurship, there must be something that makes the child do it. Basically, there must be a set of drivers. What kind of benefits the child will get. What is it that is pushing him to be entrepreneurial? So sometimes, as we say, the necessity is the mother of invention. In some rural area or poor countries, you see the child automatically becomes entrepreneurial. They want to do something that benefits others in the community so that they can earn some money.
Yes.
So this is one an example of a driver. And the others in our countries, because people are cuddled, children are cuddled and given a lot of money, and a lot of things are done for them. This driver is lost because they don't see the necessity.
Yeah.
So this is one thing that probably I would like to hear your view on how you discuss it. In terms of enabling part of it, marketing, for instance, it was mentioned just a while ago, just a few minutes ago, about
Yes.
markets. So when kids want to benefit, they will need to sell. So they will need a market. We're talking about money. So it's not only a family encouragement, but it should be a systemic thing that allows kids to sell. Now this brings me to the second part of it is regulation, because that means enabling part. The driving part and the enabling part is to be able to be in an environment where you can develop these skills freely without any hindrance, and you're a kid, so you don't know how to do it. You need guidance, but that guidance doesn't have to be always home. You need, entrepreneurial is something that goes beyond home. You benefit community and you benefit others. So my second part is regulation. Does the regulation allow child to be in the market? Because we know that from United Nations and others that some people are abusing kids and make them work instead of going to school.
Yes.
However, I think there is a way of looking at this from a different angle by enabling them, by creating markets for them, market platforms for them to sell their ideas or their products. They can sell either their ideas, intellectual properties, or their products. But I don't think we have the mechanism for that, and I don't think the regulation, even at this stage, allows that. It might end up being categorized as child abuse rather than trying to make a child entrepreneurial. I don't know what's your opinion.
We could start with the cyber, marketing and business. They could start selling through the internet. Yeah, it's one way that you ensure that your children are supervised and they are fully in charge. I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the internet is just one loose way at this stage because it is not properly regulated. I mean, in terms of governance, internet at this stage, there are so many ways, so many things you can do that you cannot govern these things. I mean, there is an abuse of internet, for instance, in child pornography in the West, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So people are still using it. People are still making money of it, and even kids who are being abused, they're getting money out of this as well.
Yeah.
So I think internet itself needs regulation before we can set free.
There's أولا السلام عليكم دكتور محمد. It's so nice to hear your voice.
وعليكم السلام.
Ramadan Kareem. It's been a long time, and it's great to still kind of ننهل من علمك في entrepreneurship. Seriously.
أستغفر الله. نحن نستفيد منكم.
الله
We
يسلمك.
benefit from your talks.
Allah يسلمك. I totally agree with you, Dr. Muhammad, and absolutely. I mean, we do have issues with enablers, with the drivers, and as well with the regulation. Now, if we go back to perhaps the virtual marketing or virtual selling, one of the issues that we have faced in trying to promote that is the transfer of money. It's not that easy in Oman to have that transfer of money. But I think with children, I think it's and this is where if we focus on families, some families focus or they create their own niche within the family. For example, yesterday and there was Qaranqa show or some family oriented events. Instead of buying from outside, let the children create something and sell it to other children in the family. It's like the example of the lemonade stand in the West. I think it's small things like that, just to kind of start them thinking about not being يعني صرفا consumers, but they need to start being producers. And not only how they handle money, but and maybe the budget we give them is not enough. Maybe they can start thinking of ways of making money of other members of the family.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's a good idea actually to start thinking like that, even in festivals like Maharajan Muscat, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Maybe some of you guys can influence organizations like Minister of Education to do something like this, to allow platforms for kids to sell their products and their ideas.
Great idea.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad, for your very valuable comments.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Just before we go back to Dr. Muhammad's points here, I was talking about the experience we had as children with my father, and we started thinking about money and being more conscious about money. And I remember once I asked him, we sell big volumes of these caps, and I said, why do you sell to A while B is paying us more per cap? He said, well, he is paying cash, and this one,
absolutely,
credit. So immediately we started also learning about, okay, you have cash here, and you have delayed money, and you have the value of the money with time and depreciation, all of that, and you start thinking about that.
Yes, no, it's very important, and again, I think it's little things that you can have within the family. I know some families where the children do partake, and especially with home businesses, and I think, and this is why I would say mothers. I know it's the mothers who drive that, and a lot of حتى يعني indirectly they don't realize it. Most of the time it's the mothers. So if the mother is doing a home business, you will find her at using or kind of investing the time of her children and their them being
like
around,
making frankincense and
exactly
perfumes and things
and
like
again
that.
And if she pays them for that, it's not that she just makes them do it, but they get a percent, they get something worth مقابل عملهم for doing the work.
Yes.
And I think this is important, and if we focus on the mothers to drive entrepreneurial communities, I think we will end up with very entrepreneurial societies.
Yes, I believe that normally women take initiatives more seriously, in certain projects they prosper more. These projects prosper more because they are in hands of people who are driving it. I think more than men. Men would focus on a single thing and would rather not do multitask.
I think it's very funny. That's the ultimate or eternal debate between men and women. And there's a lot of research that supports this. Women are very much risk averse. Okay, and maybe this is one of the reasons when they get into entrepreneurship.
That's why they accept us.
No, but when they get into entrepreneurship, they're very tight with their money. Women don't take as many risks as men. And this is proven, in research. Men tend to, maybe it's the testosterone, you never know, but they do tend to be more kind of bold and, take the risk. Whereas women, they will really calculate, and that's why a lot of home businesses last for a very long time, and if they're only given the chance to expand, they could actually become huge businesses.
Okay, how do we have 10 minutes to tackle Dr. Muhammad's points when he talks about drivers and enablers? How do we do that?
Again, if we talk about drivers, why would a child want to become an entrepreneur?
Yes.
This takes us back to the same question we were saying before. It's the same other side of the coin. Why would a child want to actually go to school? So again, it's in the way we instill all of these ideas or thoughts from the beginning. Again, entrepreneurship does not have to end up being starting a business. You don't have to start a business. It's a way of thinking. It's a mindset. It's almost like saying, you want a child to become more careful with money, to become more aware about the dynamics of money within the community or the society, and to be able to contribute value-added contributions into the society and the community. So they're not just consuming of the society.
And for this, I think that's why we don't need the regulation, because at this point of time we're training our children to be entrepreneurs, but the actual work will come after they become adults, and then they can rely on the regulations which are there at the moment for adults. So for kids, we don't expect them to be a full-fledged businessmen or women.
No,
but we're training them in such a way in the small phase. Maybe it can be under the umbrella of the parents. If the parents can fall under the regulations which are there at the moment, and the children can follow in the family business and help out. In a very legal way.
And I think it's important here to distinguish that you're not trying to make the child a standalone businessman or woman.
Yes.
What you're trying to do is you're just trying to introduce them to the dynamics of thinking in a business way, thinking in an entrepreneurial way. I don't even want to say in a business way, because again, to be honest with you, it is very, very much at the core of our religion as well. نحن أمة مقتصدة. We should always be thinking in an economic way. And we have lost that. I think what we have done is that through a lot of, this overflow of consumer goods and availabilities.
And as you mentioned this as well, we are also a nation that gives a lot to others.
Yes.
And we can't give a lot if we can't make our own money.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's...
And we have stopped giving to others because we only think about the necessities and the liabilities that we have, that we need to cover.
Yes.
But once we start making our own money and we have access, and then this will be possible to share this wealth with others.
Absolutely. To go back to, so this is with the drivers. If we go to the enablers that Dr. Al-Mugheri was mentioning, I totally agree with him. You've got to have a safe platform for entrepreneurs generally, but if you're going to introduce children to the dynamics of entrepreneurship, they also need to be in a very safe environment and platform. And that's why I would say that it's got to be not government regulated or state regulated. It should be family regulated. Within your own family. I know some home businesses where the daughters now just khalas, they've taken over the business, although they are going to school, but when they come and they make dates. So basically they make the dates and they wrap them and everything, and they sell them to different family members or friends of the family. Again, they started thinking entrepreneurially. They know about the money exchange, how much they price it. They put a cost to the time they invest in making each plate. So again, with the enablers, we can keep enablement within the family niche and keep it kind of in a safe, so that they know that there's a backup for them if they need to go back to. And finally, we talked about the regulation. I think, as you rightfully said, it doesn't have to be state regulated or at the level where they need a license and a permit and
because let us not forget, the main aim for our children is to go to school, to get proper education, and then to learn, meanwhile learning the skills to be independent, so that when they finish the most important part of their life, which is education, then they can have the choice whether to continue to become employed or whether they want to be a businessman.
I think it's even much more beneficial if you start with the entrepreneurial kind of molding of children early. By the time they get to high school, they know exactly what they want to study.
Absolutely.
A lot of our kids now, they get to that level and you're surprised. You sit with them and I've spoken to a couple of children, I would say children, but they're teens.
Young adults,
and they have no idea what they actually look at the job market and they say, okay, where can I find jobs?
Yes.
So if they had started early with an entrepreneurial mindset, they would not even look at the job market. They would be really focusing on how to develop the skill that they already have with knowledge.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And what you said about families need to regulate rather than being state regulated to protect these children is something that happened last week when my son, my eldest, he's 9 years old, and he said, you know what, I want to come to the market and sell green mangoes. Yeah. Okay. I said, well, that's fine. He said, because we live in a farm. Yes. I would like to sell it. It's half a rial for something that little. I said, okay, why do you want to do it? He said, and I didn't want to influence him in any way. He said, I want to do it where there is too many bypassers.
Very good.
Yeah. So I don't want a quiet place. Take me somewhere where I need to see a lot of people and sell a lot of those. So, some things comes by instinct. And so it's natural to them. So they understood, I need to be somewhere where there is
a lot of
traffic.
Yeah.
So I would sell more.
Yes.
Yeah. And he
How
knew,
old is he?
He's 8. He's 9. He's 9.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. He's 9. So he knew exactly what he wanted to sell, the price from the market. He knew how much it costed for the mangoes. We could buy a bunch. And sometimes because he gets it free from our neighbor.
Does the neighbor get anything in return?
Absolutely nothing.
Now that's good margins.
Yes, see? So 100% margins on. Maybe he'll take the chili from my cabinet. So.
You should charge for that.
I'll charge for that, definitely.
Well, what is scary is that you find a lot of people who are educated in economics, maybe MBA holders and other degrees, and they fail to, some of them, they fail to implement what they have learned in universities and even train their children in this perspective, because they have a very good understanding, but it's not implemented. And this is where it comes, where you need to focus and observe your children and know each one of them.
Yes.
Some of them from an early stage, like Dr. Wiles has mentioned his son, that you would see the interest in such field. So you need to focus on that area. Some of them are artistic. They just not bothered with the market and making money. They just want to express themselves. So you should as a parent, you should know what roles your children are playing and what focus should they focus in. And
my second child, he aims very high. He's 8 and he said, I want a land. I have 5 riyals.
Investor.
I have 5 riyals. Can I get a land?
Yes. Well, this it's really fun. There's something that's called the entrepreneurial DNA, and this was a concept that was developed by an American doctor, and he's actually a medical doctor, but he left medicine and he started becoming an entrepreneur, and he was very interested in trying to kind of like how we scientists do it. We try to kind of classify and categorize everything. So he's like, I want to know what is it that makes some people good entrepreneurs and others not. Yeah. So he came up with this system of the entrepreneur's DNA, and he divided them to 4 types of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial traits. And everybody falls in these either, one of these 4. You can have a combination. The first is a builder, and this is the entrepreneur. This is the person who thinks like a builder. All they want to do is just build. So, and then the next one is the opportunist, like your son who thought about the mangoes immediately. Yeah. He strikes me as an opportunist. There's an opportunity. I need to capitalize on it. I'm going to make money out of it. After that comes the specialist, and these are the artistic ones, more of they are very specialized in one field, and they make that an entrepreneurship. A lot of consultants come under that. And finally, the innovators. And so the innovators are, really the crazy scientists or the inventors, the ones who think out of the box of new ways of solving problems. And it's very interesting because, I still, consider these 4 types very important, because you do see a lot of entrepreneurs fall either into one specific category or a mix, a builder opportunist. And according to his book, I read his book, it's called The Bosai DNA Entrepreneur. According to him, one of the best traits to have, or the best level of entrepreneurship, is a builder opportunist. So someone like Donald Trump is a builder opportunist, someone who likes to build and see opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that, and we did this as a small experiment with us, because we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. So what we did is, before training the entrepreneurs for 2 months, we gave them the BOSAI, which is the test, the DNA test. And I took it myself as well. We took it before, some time passes. So we realized that at the beginning, I was a specialist. After 4 months, 2 months of training the entrepreneurs, we came back to take the tests. Almost all of us changed our characteristics.
We have a call. Yes, we'll take a call. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. كيف حالك?
Alhamdulillah, بخير وعافية. How are you?
I just want to ask a question.
Sure.
I usually feel my son, he is he's planning really. He's 14 years old now, He's
Okay.
planning to be a businessman.
Yes.
And so he will have even a plan. I'll work first in a very well-earned job, and later I have to build houses. I have to be millionaire.
Okay.
And at the same time, sometimes on the scientific way, he said, "I want to invent the shoes where people can fly, and I'll be the first one to do, and I'll get a lot of money." So how can he encourage my son to be on the path which he's on now?
Inshallah. We'll answer your question, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's very interesting.
Yeah, the bullseye, and then
The bullseye, I'll continue the bullseye, and I'll come back to the lady. So what was very interesting is that we realized that after practicing entrepreneurship, or practicing business, your traits change according to the experience. The more you practice, the better, or the more opportunist builder you become, and the less specialist and innovator. And I think it's very important. And this takes us back. I mean, some of the students or some of the participants we had who were innovators to start with never changed. They were still innovators. And it showed us that they need teams. An innovator needs a team of a builder and opportunist for them to come up with something, because he will always stay an innovator. He's the scientist.
Okay.
So it's just interesting to kind of look at it from that side.
We'll take a very short break, and then we'll come back and answer our sister's question. So, dear listeners, stay tuned. See you after the break.
The Modern Family.
The moms, naturally, Allah has given them certain gifts. Like parenting comes more naturally to a mother. Allah has given her that gift. He just makes her nurturing, soft, caring, concerned, just naturally. Fathers have to work on it. You're sitting at home, your child falls down. Who gets up immediately? Oh, mera bacha, oh, yeah. Who does that? The father? The father's sitting there, pick yourself up, child. In Urdu, say, kuch nahi hua. Chalo, go back there. Dust it off. Nothing. That's nothing. Don't worry about it. Just a little bit of blood. The mom will go crazy. It's natural to her. I'm telling the fathers here, if we want our children to be raised in Islam, the first thing we need to be is their best friend. And that takes work. It takes serious work. Parents here, fathers here, you guys have to get in shape. I'm serious. You have to get in shape. Not for yourself, for your kids. You come home, your kids want to play with you, and you just, Abba, pick me up, throw me around, do this. You do a little bit of that, and you're like, Abba's got to lie down, hold on. That's not how you raise kids. Taking our kids hiking, playing sports with them, taking them to the backyard. Even if they're playing video games, play video games with them. Play with them. Play the Wii with them. Bowl with them. I don't care. Just do stuff with your kids. It's a critical part of opening barriers. So they can talk to you about anything. Because I'm telling you, when they reach a certain age, the need to talk to someone will always be there. You would rather that person be you, not some non-Muslim friend who will give non-Muslim kinds of advice. You would rather that be yourself. You don't want to discover your child has developed another personality later on in life, because you never talk to them, and eventually you actually engaged in a conversation and you realize, whoa, this is a different person. Who are you? You've been living under my house all these years? When did this happen? Oh, it done been happened, Daddy. It been happened. You just never knew. You were busy. You have to make special time for your children. It has to be just their time. And if you have multiple kids, you have to go out of your way to make sure each child gets individual attention and time from you. No one else, you. No toys, no gadgets, no nothing. Just you. It has to be there. It's absolutely critical.
The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, welcome back to The Modern Family. Today's show is about creating an entrepreneur child or young adult. We had a question, Sharifa, before the break. A mother is calling, says she has a 14-year-old boy who wants to grow up and be a businessman. He knows exactly what he wants. He also thinks of himself as an inventor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's, let's say, is he innovator and opportunist, or
No,
just innovator? Innovator.
I would say he's more of an innovator, builder. Because he thinks big. He's a dreamer. He wants to do great, huge, big things. So what his family can help him with is let him focus or drive him towards the specialist opportunist. He needs to understand, or first develop or get to know what are his skill sets. What is he good at? Is he really good at creating these inventions? Can he do it? Let him go through the process of actually creating something, a prototype. Give him a project. Tell him, okay, I will help you with following up with you, or with even a small budget. Let's create your first prototype if it's going to be shoes that are going to make people fly. And you should never, ever, I think with children, especially at this age, he's a teenager, 14, never laugh at their ideas. Allow them to dream big, Don't
underestimate them.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember a quote by Ford, the great, huge car maker. He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said we wanted faster horses, before he invented the Ford. So again, nobody ever thought about an engine that could be used for transportation. But he thought like this 14-year-old is thinking.
Yes.
So I would advise his mother to really hone into his real skills. What is he good at? Let him realize his mistakes. Allow him to make mistakes in a safe environment, and then help him develop that. He will soon build his opportunist as well as specialist side of the entrepreneurial characteristic, and before he's 18 or 19, we might hear about him all over Oman, inshallah, and maybe globally.
Use your network as a parent and introduce your child to your wider network. Ask about people who might be able to help, and introduce them, or introduce your child to these people. Support them emotionally, support them morally, and support them with your money.
Yes.
Yeah. If they ask you for your opinion on how to improve the product, don't say I don't know. Just try.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe it's something very silly that you might say would spark an idea in that bright child.
Absolutely. And I think it's just to go and reiterate how important it is. For you as the parent, or you're almost like mentoring. As a mentor, you should always, even if it's a completely dark tunnel, just let them go through it.
Yeah.
Allow them to make the mistakes and learn, because you cannot teach them by telling them. They've got to go through the process.
Thank you very much. I have here about 10 steps that I got on how to create an entrepreneur kid. So we'll go through them one by one. We have tackled some of them. So, for example, number one, it's goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
How to teach a child to have a goal in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how to define and write a goal, because this is step number one into raising a child who is an entrepreneur. I think we have another call. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, and Ramadan Kareem to you, sir.
Ramadan Kareem to you too.
Sir, I have a question, please.
Sure.
Since you have touched an interesting topic, so I'm showing it interest, in this topic, sir. Sir, my son is 11 years old. Okay. Mashallah, he is doing good in studies.
Yes.
But at the same time, he is showing a lot of interest in sports.
In sports?
Yes. Whenever school is doing, organizing any sports competitions, and he's always coming with a flying color. He always do good in the sports also.
Okay.
And at home also, he always watches sports channels, especially football, because he likes football.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are in a dilemma. We are confused now what to do, where to move him, because he is doing good in studies and he is doing good in sports also.
Okay.
Can you guide me? Can you advise me? What to do?
Absolutely. Inshallah. Stay tuned.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I don't think it does harm at all that your child can do both. As they always say, a bright mind, a healthy mind in a healthy body. So if he's really excelling at school, and he also at the same time manages to excel in sports, I don't see a problem there. I think I should encourage my child to do both. Why should I choose? it's something that I went through as well when I was, I think it was year 10 at school, and I wanted to go and do martial arts. And my mother said, no, you can't do that because you will just ruin your marks. You can't do it. So I said, okay, give me an opportunity. If I can do both at the same time, I'll continue. If my marks go down, then I will surrender. So
because you were already used to negotiating from selling the... Wallahi, it's true. These are traits that not all children, but it's good that, to even negotiate with the parents.
Yeah, so I did the negotiation then, but this is a time for this parent to do the negotiation with the child.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think in this case, this particular case, you don't have to negotiate with the child because he is actually excelling, as you said, in both. Yeah, I thought your question would be, should I drive him to be an entrepreneur in sports?
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, perhaps, maybe this is something that they would like to consider. Don't forget, he's only still 11.
Yes.
A lot of these huge, stars, sports stars, global stars, are actually created. They don't just happen overnight. They don't just play at a sport in a small community and then suddenly they make it big. No, there's a huge industry that backs them up. And again, if the parents of this child would like to take or would feel that he needs to take that path, they should look into what part of the industry or tap into the industry that would help develop and let him, it's almost like investors. If you have a startup, you offer it to investors and let them have a look at it. It's the same with the sports. You show some coaches or some within that industry who might see something that's very important and decide to actually kind of adopt him professionally since that age to develop him into something.
I think now that the boy has capacity for both.
Yes.
The father should focus for him in both directions if he can.
Yeah, and not make the decisions for him. Let the child make the decisions. Yeah, introduce the child, as Sharifa said, introduce the child to different aspects. And as Hatim said, focus on both. There is no harm because he's still very young. Maybe at a later stage he might want to specialize in an academic subject that is directly related with sports. Yeah, be a doctor who's specializing in sports injuries. Yeah, he could be he could go on and be a businessman who really reinvents the way people make or create sports equipment. Yeah,
absolutely.
It could be a lot of things. So I think you should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gave you this child. I think you are lucky, and he is lucky to have a concerned father as well. Mm-hmm. So keep it going and just help him out in what he wants to do. Yeah, so brilliant. So we talked about goal setting. First step to teach a child to be an entrepreneur is teach them how to write goals down, make a plan, help them achieve it.
Yes, yes.
Second thing is kids must learn how to recognize opportunities. Yeah, and as sometimes you just walk in the street, you might see someone selling fruits. Mm-hmm. He just add a little bit of value. It doesn't cost him a lot, but the margins are up high. So that's an opportunity. If the child does not see the opportunity, I think the parent should teach the child, see, how much do we buy the mangoes, for example, for? How much is he selling it for? Yes. Go through the calculations, make him realize the opportunity. We have another call. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, sister?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
First of all, thank you very much for this wonderful session.
Thank you very much.
It's really something we are getting benefit out of this.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's good to hear that.
Yeah. I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you, for example, you see a child who is not settling in one thing, always keeps on changing. Yeah, from a small child, let's say, for example, in sports, you introduce him to the sports, a different kind of sports, but he never been in good of any one of those. Yeah. And then it goes on, even getting older now, let's say in teen adults, but
Yeah.
still in the same status. I mean, he will say, like, I'm interested in this and that, and then when he starts, he never settles with that. He wants to change again. So is that a good thing, a normal thing, or is something I should be worried about?
Okay. We'll definitely talk about that, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think there are some kids who are very precise and they know what they want from an early stage, and it's built inside them, and they have the capacity and they have the skills. And some of the children, they are in a trial and error mode. So they will imitate friends, they will see new activities, new sports, new subjects, and they will keep on trying until they reach to an extent where they know that, okay, this is what I want. And this is something very, very normal. Some of them even reach to the age of 20 and they still don't know what they want. So this is very, very normal, but you should encourage them to by showing them more options until they find a settling land where they can, be comfortable with their skills and they know that they can prosper in this area.
Totally.
Okay. Well said.
Thank you.
Well said, Hatem. Thank you very much. So, if we go back to our list,
I was just going to add to the second point about recognizing opportunities. I think it's very important that there is something that comes before recognizing opportunities, which is problem solving.
Yes.
It is important to encourage problem solving skills in your child, which means that, and one of the things that encourage problem solving is actually listening till the very end to all their questions, and giving real, verified and valuable answers. If you don't know the answer, you say, I don't know, let's look it up. But never kind of, مشيهم, don't ask these questions, you're too young.
Most of the time that's what happens.
Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate.
Yes.
But I think it's very important that problem-solving process starts at a very young age. As soon as they start asking that annoying age, I would call it, when they ask too many questions. But it's very important for parents to, stick and kind of, bear and be patient, because that is one of the cornerstones of entrepreneurial or even creative thinking. That they think about why things happen and they want answers.
Brilliant. So we talked about 3 points now: goal setting, recognizing opportunities, and problem solving.
Yes.
Number 4 is selling. We need to teach them how to sell. We could encourage children with very small projects.
Yes.
Yeah, they could be selling birds. Yeah, they could in the market.
Dates or mangoes.
Dates or mangoes. Anything. It's just because it doesn't matter what they sell. It's the process itself and the learning experience.
The most important thing about selling, I think, is the earning. They need to kind of taste يعني حلاوة الطعم شو اسمه, earning their own income. That makes all the difference, especially in independence and how they feel and look at themselves as an independent entity.
This is the next point. It was financial literacy. Financial literacy, and actually you could teach them very, very easily this, because you could give them, for example, your car to wash it and say, rather than taking it outside to wash it, why don't you do it and I'll give you the money?
Yeah, or even the neighborhood. And we talked about this briefly during the break. And you rightfully mentioned that sometimes العيب, مشكلتنا العيب. We have a problem with the knowledge, that stigma, that maybe it's عيب, and it's inappropriate that my child goes to my neighbor's house to wash their car, to say, I will wash your car for $1. Even me saying it, I don't think I would hope to see that one day we overcome these stigmas, because they're not doing any good for the community as a whole.
Yes. I think that's something that we really need to teach our children.
But
because
this can only disappear. Sorry for interrupting you. This can only disappear if the parents themselves start doing some of these activities.
I totally agree.
And then the children will find, that's all. My dad is doing it. There's nothing wrong with it.
No,
I can do it.
They always want to be part of those activities and clean the car, because although they might not do it well, it's an opportunity as well as a parent to engage with a child and teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just, leading by example. I mean, I would really be delighted if I saw really someone within the community that, does go with their child the first time they go to the neighbors to sell something and say, my child here has something to sell. Would you be interested? Again, I think these are just small steps that would make a leap in the community.
Okay, number 6 in our list is marketing. We mentioned marketing, so building marketing skills is very important. How do we do that? I can think of a very simple way. One is, let them look at the billboards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Let them look at billboards. Tell them, what do you see on these billboards? Or if they see an advert, ask them, do you want that product? And why?
Yes.
What made you? So you just let them think of how things are being marketed to them.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And just understanding, it is very important to understand how media manipulates, I think, at a very early age also. They have, just that kind of brand and image wherever they go, just to understand that these are put there by companies trying to sell you something. So that they, that's the protection that we need. We talked about earlier that in other nations, perhaps, it doesn't matter how many adverts are there, people are protected. We need to protect our children by letting them realize this process of advertising and media manipulation.
Yes. Point number 7 is something we also touched upon, we talked about, is failure. Yeah. In schools, we are taught that failure is a big problem. You should not be a failure. And we get, we never taught failure as a way to learn. Never in a school. So I think teaching children failure is a good thing, and in a positive way. Because if a child fails, do not punish them. Instead, go through the steps that led to the failure. Teach them analytical thinking. Yeah? Take them through the steps and tell them, okay, what do you suggest we should do different? Don't give them the answer. Yes, what do you suggest we could do differently? Yeah? And that's what teach them. Because we also talked in the break that there are Omani way of starting a business in some Omanis, and the way they deal with failure versus, some expatriates who deal with that failure differently. For example, an Omani would open a grocery shop and he would fail. Mm-hmm. Once. Who just shut it, maybe sell the business, and that's it. I tried it, I failed. Some expatriates, they also fail, but they regroup and brainstorm what went wrong, and they start again. They fail 2, 3, 4 times, and then the 5th they really excel and they hit it really and become successful.
And I think we should look at failure as an opening for an opportunity for something else. Absolutely. For example, I might not be meant to do this particular activity, and if I fail, that means I should not stop completely, but I should look for other ways and means that can work with my skills that can make me successful.
Yes. I think it's very important just to point at the point of failure. You see, entrepreneurship is not fully an art and it's not fully a science, but there are some very scientific grounds to it. And from my experience here locally with a lot of entrepreneurs and startups that we've worked with, I find that a lot of times failure is probably due to lack of enough research to start with. Understanding the demand of the market, understanding who's going to buy the product to start with. So, what we do is we usually we almost put the carriage in front of the horse. So we think about, okay, I want to start a business and this and this and that, and I'm going to do the business plan, feasibility study, get the money and start it and open shop, and then just wait for people to come. And this is not the right way of doing it. It's always better to start with the customer and first understand who's going to buy this, and then move from there to decide what exactly are you going to offer. What is the problem you're trying to solve? I wrote just one thing here. I think this is this is like a golden standard to failures. And I think it's important to kind of instill it not only in children. I think we do it at our company with our employees as well. We say you're allowed to make as many mistakes as you can, but you are not allowed to break the discipline. And there are two things between making a mistake and understanding why that mistake was made, and it's forgiven, but you never break the discipline. So, I think it's kind of, trying to distinguish and differentiate between those two.
Yes. One other point is the art of giving back. Entrepreneurship could easily lead someone to be selfish. Could. I mean, if not taken...
I might disagree here.
Yeah, I mean, see, because the way we perceive entrepreneurship, the majority don't see it as a way of life. They see it as a way of making money and independence. And that way, people might go deep into it and just forget about giving.
You know, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, and again, this is another stereotype that we have about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. Yes. And the way we see it is التجار هم تجار كلهم تجار خلاص يعني they're just about making money. Yeah. The reality of it is that because they create money and they're money creators, they are happier to let go of it quicker than the person who works for a salary, because you know, it is much, you know, the biggest philanthropists in the world are entrepreneurs. You know, people who have given most of their fortune are entrepreneurs, because to them they have surpassed that barrier of what actually is the value of money. Yes. It's not about money, it's about value and, you know, added value in the society.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Sharifa for being here with us.
Thank you.
You have certainly enriched the show with the knowledge on entrepreneurship. Thank you as well, Hatim, for all your comments, and thank you for all those who have called us either with their questions or with their comments. And a special thanks to Dr. Muhammad Al-Mughairi as well for his call. Ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners, thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow with a brand new show. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.